Hi, Lewis. I was told by Holger, who referenced you to me, to send you a message telling you the whole ordeal of how he ended up sending my laptop to you. Basically, I was just using it one day, it turned off and wouldn't turn back on. I went to the Apple Store by Michigan State University, because that's what a stressed college student's first instinct is. They then told me my SMC was broken. It would cost $100 for the part and $400 for labor. And if they did that, it would wipe the memory off of my laptop, even though my laptop was purchased in January 2017. So after that, I went to the Best Buy out here and was told that there was nothing they can do because my insurance in the laptop expired on January 23rd, 2017, when I actually purchased it on January 28th, 2017. I then called my mom, since she was still in our hometown, where we purchased the laptop. She went to the Best Buy out here and was told there was nothing they can do about it. So she went into the Apple Store in our hometown as well, gave them the Diagnostic from the MSU Apple Store, and the genius went into the back to call the other Apple Store and wouldn't tell her what they talked about on the phone. He then came back out, told her the only option was the $500 fix, but his words were, "We don't actually know what's wrong with it, but we can guarantee we will fix it." Upon asking him what they were doing that will guarantee the fix, they refused to tell us, and then just said the exact same thing over and over again. So after that, we went to the Best Buy once again, and we were told by Best Buy to buy a battery from Batteries Plus. Come back, buy a $200 Geek Squad plan, and it will cover the cost of backing up my laptop and installing the battery. It took about a week to get the battery in, and when it was finally in, we went to the store to pick it up, and it wasn't there. So after going back and forth with Batteries Plus, they finally figured out what was wrong and got the battery. We then took it to Best Buy on a Friday night. We're told to make an appointment on Saturday to get the battery put in between noon and 7 p.m., so we decided on 2 p.m. We went back the next day. Granted, I drove 80 miles from Lansing to Grand Rapids to deal with the issue at the Best Buy we bought the computer from, and the associates at Best Buy had no idea who we were and what we were talking about. After a long, heated conversation with the general manager of the Geek Squad, we were told that Best Buy doesn't actually fix MacBooks. Whoever told us that information was straight up lying to our faces, and then we had to return the battery, which we apparently way overpaid for as well. After that, we had no idea who to go to get this fixed, and as we have no idea what the actual issue with my laptop is. Finally, we contacted Holger, drove over to his house, and he opened up the computer, which Best Buy said they could not do because it was too dangerous, and my lithium batteries would explode. Upon Holger opening up the computer, in a matter of seconds and explaining to us why Apple and Best Buy are so corrupt in their processes of fixing their products, he gave us your name and website, we watched a couple of your videos, and sent the laptop out immediately. So let's go over a few things that are troublesome with this story. First of all, is that opening the laptop is dangerous because of the lithium-ion battery. You can't open it because... Can we? Second thing is that the SMC is bad. And that because the SMC chip over here is bad, that must mean that you're going to lose your data, right? You're going to lose all of the data. Even though, on this machine, if you wish to remove the SSD, you can do so just like this. So watch this. If you want to preserve the data in this computer because you want to swap the board, you remove one screw, you slide out the SSD, you replace the board, and then once you have replaced the defective motherboard, even if you have no idea how to fix this thing at all, once you've replaced the defective motherboard, you take that SSD, you slide it into the new motherboard, you put the screw in, and the customer retains their data. This is not that hard, and there is no excuse for any Apple Store to say that they cannot preserve customer data when it is they're repairing a machine. You don't have to copy the data. You don't have to deal with a program that images the drive or anything like that. You do this. You do this. You take the drive out. You put the new board in. You plug the solid-state drive into the new board. And then you screw it in. This is one screw. It is not that hard. Anyway.
You just turned that MacBook into PC.
I just turned this into a PC. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see if we can fix this MacBook board and see what's wrong with it. Is it the SMC? Does it need a new battery? Did any of these people get it right or not? One way to find out. Let's dig into this machine and see what's going on. All right, so we've got a MacBook Air, and this MacBook Air claims to be dead. We're going to plug it in, turn on my power supply here, and we're going to see how many amps it grabs. And it appears to grab 0.009, which is pretty dead. So let's open it up and see why this MacBook happens to be dead. According to the ticket, it says won't power on no liquid, which of course is probably a lie, but there's only one way to find out, if that's the case. Alright, let's get a good look at this MacBook. So we're going to zoom in, and it's a pretty clean looking MacBook. Alright, so we're going to unplug the flex cable for the keyboard and all this stuff and see if we get any different results. Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Wouldn't it be great if this MacBook was just a bad trackpad? But alas, no, we still don't get fan spin. And we're still only drawing 0.01 amps. Let's take a look at this under the microscope and see if we can get an idea of why MacBook is dead. Under the microscope, there's no clear-cut obvious reason for why MacBook is dead. Oh. Well, imagine that. I think I can see why MacBook is dead now. Let's take a look and see what that's for. This looks similar to the board that didn't work earlier, so I'm going to open up a schematic for an 820-00165 board and get that on the screen. And let's see if Paul Daniels' new software that I updated will work or fuck up. U7501 is going to be used for creating 3 different power rails. It's going to be used to create PP5V S4 RS3. What does this say on the middle of the screen here, Paul Daniels? What does that say? I updated your software. I trusted you! Never updating software again. Click over to my microscope camera and remove this chip because it seems to be corroded. Almost as corroded as Paul Daniels' code and his heart. Paul Daniels knew that I had working software and he decided to update it to change it so that I wouldn't be able to fix boards anymore, so that he would be able to monopolize once he moves to the United States. I'm kidding, I like Paul Daniels. But he always tells me to update software, and every time I update software, it doesn't work. It's not just a Paul Daniels thing, it's a general thing in life. If I have a working version of software, I stick with that working version of software. Alright, I can see that most solder joints are melted, which means I should be able to do this. There's a pad there that's rusted. Why is that pad rusted? And what is that pad for? Well, there's one way to find out by using Paul Daniels' amazing board view software here. We can just click and we can see that that pad is for PP5V S5. PP5V S5 is totally corroded. As a result, we're likely not getting PP5V S5, and if we're not getting PP5V S5, the board's not going to work and turn on. So let's try and fix up that pad and make this a happy little board. So here I'm going to use my micro pencil, my T30-KN. We're going to go over all these pads and make them nice again. This board's going to turn on, and it's going to be happy, fitter, more productive. Alright, now let's really zoom in and work on that pad that seems to be corroded. Updates are usually for a good reason. No, they're not. Updates are to break the software so that you have to purchase a support package or a new version. Updates are a conspiracy. Never update software. Alright, so we're just going to scrape until we get a pad, because I believe that there's actually a pad under there, and I'm going to prove it to you. We're going to scrape in line with the pad. Up, down. And this is why my T30-KN tips typically last a few weeks, even though they cost almost $50. There we go, we're revealing pad. Keep scraping. We don't want to scrape too hard, we just want to scrape hard enough to get rid of all the junk on there. And the flux is going to help us, and the fact that the iron has a little bit of solder on it's going to help us. And that the fact that the iron is boiling hot's going to help us. And we want to make sure we didn't just put solder on top of corrosion. So I'm going to take a little bit of wick, and I'm going to remove the solder just in case we pulled a no-no and put solder on top of corrosion. I want to see what it looks like under all that stuff. Granted, you're not supposed to be wicking with a micro pencil, which is another reason that these tips usually last me like a week. So I'm gonna put on a proper iron for this, for wicking. Time for some pads to get wicked. We're gonna remove all the solder that we put on these pads. So we put leaded solder over the lead-free solder. We went over it enough times that most of the lead-free is probably gone. Now I'm going to wick it all away, and the reason I'm doing that is because I want to make sure that I didn't just put solder on top of corrosion up there. I want to make sure that I actually removed all of the corrosion and the junk that was located near that pad. So I do a good amount of scraping, much scraping right by that area, but gently. It's much gentle scraping. And I'm satisfied at this point that I've removed all the corrosion from that pad. Now that pad is fitter, happier, and more productive. Not thinking too much. Regular exercise at the gym. Fitter, happier, more productive. Fitter, happier, more productive. Fitter, happier, more productive. Regular exercise at the gym. Not thinking too much. My bridge in the bottom left will clean itself up in a jiffy. Okay, we've got it centered. Now we gotta push it down so it's in place. Put a little bit of flux, just a small amount, enough to get everything working. And now I'm going to solder left-handed. I don't wish that pain on anybody. Be gone, chip. Be Can MacBook work again? MacBook can work again. MacBook is fixed. So it appears there was corrosion around my 5 and 3 volt regulator IC, and we had a corroded pad. And we were able to fix that corroded pad with a 3-step process. First, we add solder around all the pads in that area. Then we scrape, and then after we're done scraping, we use wick to make sure that any solder that we added did not just go on top of dirt. Once we have a perfectly flat pad surface with no any contaminant crap on it, then we can add flux and add new solder to the pads and put a new chip. But it's important to not solder a chip on top of corrosion. If you solder a chip on top of corrosion, it won't work. And often, if you just add solder on top of corrosion, you could be fooling yourself into believing that you've created a contact when in reality, there is no good contact. If there is resistance at that point, the machine will use too much power, and you may have random shutdowns, or it may not work at all, or it'll trip a current sensing circuit, or it'll only work on a non-original charger, and all sorts of nasty stuff. So just make sure you do it right the first time. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.